This is WVBN, reporting from Japan. Discussions between Navy ministers and other political and military figures resulted in a change in strategy for future Japanese shipbuilding. A number of unlaid heavy capital ships would be cancelled in order to facilitate the construction of a larger number of lighter ships, after the Navy identified a key weakness in their all-in capital ship strategy. This was reported to be the first of many decisions that Japan would be making about the future of their Navy in this new war. The saved budget would also result in extra funding to repair and free the heavy cruiser Tone from upriver, as the ship was not only the most modern of Japan's heavy cruisers, but an awakened kami as well. While efforts by both workers and Tone herself were commendable this week, neither found much success in freeing her. The Navy began efforts with various Shinto priests to awaken the kami of the battleship Mikasa. Mikasa had previously served as the flagship of Vice Admiral Togo, whose victory in the Battle of Tsushima paved the way for Japan to emerge as a great power in the 20th century. The significance of Mikasa was well known to all living in Japan, and it was certain that Mikasa herself would have a role to play in this war. While workers began construction of a dockyard around Mikasa's concrete mooring, priests and other spiritual figures tried all number of rituals to awaken the kami, including bringing back any who served or worked on her, and searching for potential vestures including memorabilia from Togo himself, such as his famous Z flag. Unfortunately, none of these found success, though some attributed small phenomena, such as leaves blowing across her deck or the sound of a shakuhachi, a type of woodwind instrument, to be evidence they were moving in the right direction. Japanese reconnaissance to the island of Guam was met with serious opposition, in anticipation of the liberation of the island from Morgana forces. A fast recon division was dispatched, consisting of a number of light cruisers and destroyers, preceded by aerial recon. Up to half of the aircraft sent were shot down by heavy anti-aircraft fire, but a number of key installations were identified as priority targets. Naval recon ran into similar resistance, which was intercepted by Morgana warships as they approached the island. During the battle, the destroyer Hibiki was seriously damaged but managed to escape after discovering that a contingent of US Marines and civilians had managed to survive Yorogumo's takeover. A daring rescue saw a number of casualties recovered, as well as the distribution of what supplies Hibiki had on board. A number of SNLF Marines also volunteered to stay behind before Hibiki escaped. As she was leaving, her captain was killed by oncoming fire, but almost immediately after, a US Marine who was boarding came face to face with her kami, who declared that he would be her new captain. As badly shot up as Hibiki was, she did not suffer the fate of Shirakumo, who suffered a magazine detonation yet managed to survive to be beached on the island, where her surviving crew evacuated all useful material before scuttling her under heavy Morgana fire. Before the last explosions knocked the crew away, reports suggest that she briefly manifested as a white-haired woman, who smiled as the last shells exploded around her. Also notable during the battle was the brief appearance of Akatsuki's kami, who briefly manifested to keep the ship afloat after a hit to her bow before vanishing, and leaving only a pair of shoes behind. In the aftermath, it was determined that Hibiki would need at least 2 months under repair. Japanese officers also proposed that Yorogumo's threat to the Pacific was intolerable, and that all 3 Great Pacific powers would bring the largest fleet to bear in the war against her, to liberate Guam and destroy Yorogumo. Back in Tokyo, naval officers accepted the Army's demand for heavy naval rifles to be used in coastal fortifications, following the rampage of Baba Yaga in addition to general preparedness for a naval attack. Though it took a cut out of the Navy budget as well as the year's construction of large-caliber rifles, the Army was grateful for the Navy's help and proposed that the 2 branches develop new small arms for use in close-quarters combat. The Kami of Aoba volunteered to assist, and together they developed a number of functional prototypes that could begin manufacturing. The Japanese Army won a series of victories over Chinese counterattacks, following the decimation of several Chinese battalions. In addition to Kuomintang territories, the Japanese Army also seized a large percentage of land controlled by the Communist Chinese through swift and lethal coordination of Army units. Large number of prisoners were taken from both engagements, and reportedly given decent treatment by the Army. The Army did, however, begin preaching to captured units, except for captured Muslim prisoners. Mongolian prisoners were segregated into separate camps and given somewhat more luxurious treatment. A Mongolian prince was similarly rescued from warlord captivity by Japanese intelligence forces. The imperial household suffered the loss of Princess Masako, the 10th child and 6th daughter of Emperor Meiji. Full funeral ceremonies were hosted by the imperial palace, where Chiyoda herself attended and brought with her a bouquet of the princess's favorite flowers. Later in the week, right-wing newspapers reported a growing discontent in the government with Germany's policies following the start of the Morgana War. Germany had originally come to Japan with promises of an anti-Soviet pact, but recent actions of collaboration with a communist nation had seemingly betrayed their intention to stand as a Western bulwark to Japan's eastern one. Between political deals and selling military hardware, the German government was quickly falling out of favor in Tokyo, especially with more hardline anti-Morgana factions, following reports of the development and usage of M-Tech. The government did not comment on Germany officially, nor growing ties with the US, UK, and Italy. Japanese submarine interdiction had a very successful week. One captain in particular, that of I-71, had deviated significantly from their expected patrol area to score several kills against a cowardice and treason near Guam. Their reasoning was that these new foes demanded a new doctrine to combat them. They were reportedly commended for their success. This has been WVBN, reporting from Japan.